action.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT
Can't wait.
with John Dickinson
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
on KNBR 104.5 and 6.8. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
And then he just put that holster up and then let it go. Big dog. Is that number 30 or 23? Another triple for Draymond Green, his fifth of the ball game.
And Draymond Green would finish with 5 3-point makes on 10 attempts. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for the Warriors? It's typically a good thing if Stephen Curry is playing and the Warriors are all connected, and it might be a little bit of a found money type of a night for Golden State with Draymond doing that. But he was doing it in large part because there were shots to be had without Stephen Curry playing in Denver tonight. Warriors, though, they lose and they get blown out, 129-104 by the Denver Nuggets. Emirates Cup game, so the Warriors 0-1 now in the in-season tournament in their group play, the so-called group of death. But the story of this one, much bigger. Jimmy Butler back, Draymond Green back, and Moses Moody winds up playing, although he popped up on the injury report, not playing well. And the story of this one, the Warriors' young players in particular, not playing well in the absence of Steph Curry. Al Horford ended up unable to play in this game tonight, and it was just a whole lot of Denver and a Nuggets team that is a legitimate contender for an NBA title going up against a Warriors team where it kind of feels like every game the Warriors have to play without Steph Curry is the same. They do the best they can. They come out, although I don't think the energy and effort and intensity was really what you would want to see tonight either. Actually, I thought they were a little bit low motor tonight, top to bottom. Across the board, but they compete, I think, the best that they can with what they have. But where I want to start the show, and we're here on the Sports Leader, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. We'll be with you for the next 90 minutes or so. We got Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios as well, as the Warriors drop to 5-5 on the season. 4-1 start. They've now lost 4 of the last 5 games after that 4-1 start. And we'll see if Stephen Curry can come back against Indiana on Sunday. But the schedule's not really getting any easier after that game for the Warriors, because they're going to be right back out on the road beginning a 6-game trip, and they're going to be in Oklahoma City and then play a pair of games against the San Antonio Spurs. So I think a couple of different directions we can go. Story of this one is how poorly the young players played tonight in the absence of Stephen Curry. And the sub-theme tonight for me is just the fact that, we're starting to get some of the answers as to just where this team is at, because the whole plan for the Golden State Warriors this season was that they believed they built a roster in the offseason that would be more able to compete and win games, not only on nights where Stephen Curry needs to rest or is dealing with an illness, as he has been really for the last week. If you recall, he played 3 games essentially with this illness, going back to Milwaukee and Indy and the home game against Phoenix before it all proved to be too much in the aftermath of the Warriors' lone win here in the last week and a half at home against the Suns. But the Warriors thought they built a team that could compete and win some games without Steph, or even on nights where Steph and Jimmy had to miss, or Draymond and Steph would have to miss, and maybe it would be Jimmy. They thought they built a roster that had enough depth and enough veteran complement to some young players that they really like in Brandon Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. And one of the early season takeaways here is you look at a better effort in Sacramento with nobody playing among Steph and Jimmy and Draymond. But again, that's opponent specific, right? I think we would all agree the Kings are probably, and they had guys out too, by the way, a bottom 5 team in the Western Conference. They are very likely a bottom 5 team in the Western Conference. Now, there are probably 7 or 8 teams right now that look like they're in the mix to be a bottom 5 team in the Western Conference, but we'll not digress into that point here because this is Dubs OT, and so we'll talk some Warriors. But you play one of the true contenders, and we've seen what it looks like at home with everybody playing, including Al Horford, and the Warriors can compete against Denver. They stole a game against Denver, but they got no shot to compete. And they got even less of a shot. Like, they got no shot to compete against anybody good down one, I would say one of the two between Steph and Jimmy. And you know what? It's I don't think anybody should be freaked out about that part of it. The concerning part to me on a night like tonight is just how completely overmatched Brandon Podziemski, 7 points, 3 of 10 shooting, and that was hitting a couple of shots. He was 1 for 6 at one point. Kuminga was 1 for 6, ended up 3 for 10. Podziemski and Kuminga basically wound up with almost identical lines tonight. 7 points for Podz, 6 for Kuminga, both 3 for 10, both not hitting the 3 ball. Kuminga did have 7 rebounds and 3 assists. Podziemski had 3 assists. Both had a couple of turnovers. Podziemski had a block. Kuminga, the bigger player, had more rebounds tonight. Whatever. Kuminga actually, I guess, led the Warriors in rebounding. But he ends up minus 19, Podziemski minus 15. And then you got Moses Moody, who for the last 48 hours, it's been, everybody's been feeling really good about Moody after the game that he has in Sacramento, and he's shooting better than 50% from three-point range, even though he had a horrible first game knocking off the rust in Portland a couple of weeks ago on Friday. But the concern, Moses Moody, 1 for 9. So, you look at, 6 for 20, 7 for 29. 7 for 29 between Podziemski, Kuminga, and Moody. And they go for 15 points combined on 7 of 29 shooting on a night where you don't have Steph Curry. So there are going to be opportunities for all 3 of them to be able to step up and step in and make their presence felt and maybe not help the Warriors to a win in Denver against who I believe to be one of the 2 true contenders at this point in the Western Conference. And Oklahoma City may very, very well be in a category or stratosphere of their own as the defending champions. But my goodness, to be that inept and unable, and to have the whole thing fall down completely like a house of cards without Steph out there, I think that's a little bit demoralizing. And again, for 2025-26, I could not care less about 2027 and 2028 and Podz hand him the keys and Kuminga could be this. And, I don't care about any of that. To me, it's about, can these guys show enough growth to be effective when Steph and Jimmy and Draymond are playing, which I think we have seen them be able to do that. Kuminga got off to the real solid start the first probably 5-6 games of the season. Podziemski's been up and down, but probably a little bit more, probably a little too maligned, although he was awful again tonight. My goodness. Just turnovers and when to shoot versus pass. The defense tonight, that's another thing. You'd think you'd be able to bring, without Steph Curry, a modicum of defensive intensity. Now, the Nuggets, again, are one of the best offensive teams in the league. Nikola Jokic is a freaking unicorn. Jamal Murray was hitting shots. Aaron Gordon knocks down the 3 ball against the Warriors he goes 10 for 11 against the Warriors 2 weeks ago in San Francisco. Then he goes 6 for 25 up until playing the Warriors again tonight, and now he goes 3 for 5 in the game tonight. So you do that quick math. 13 for 16. Aaron Gordon is 13 for 16 from 3 against the Warriors in 2 games. He's 6 for 25 in the other 6 games that the Nuggets have played this season, but just no resistance. Again, I think for the most part, the Warriors are competitive in a lot of these games where they're shorthanded and the young players have had an opportunity to get out there and play. I thought the compete was down tonight for the Warriors as well. And I think that's something that was disappointing when you look at it from top to bottom. Again, you may get cooked because Jokic is Jokic and Gordon does his thing against the Warriors and Murray's terrific. And look, if you watch this show, you know what a fan I am of the moves that the Nuggets made. And Cam Johnson hasn't even really been good offensively for Denver yet. Was a plus 25 tonight. But you look at him, Christian Brown's a terrific young player. I like getting Valanciunas for them. I like getting Bruce Brown back. I like Tim Hardaway. I think they have a really solid roster, and that group has been terrific to begin the season collectively, even if maybe Cam Johnson, especially in the 2 games against the Warriors, hasn't been much of a scorer. So I can understand, all right, no Steph, no wins, but the big thing just kind of initially here, and we can get into it at 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. If you want to jump in and join the conversation on the phone line, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. We do have the best YouTube chat in sports already off and rolling here on this Friday evening as the Warriors get smoked in the second half, 129-104. But yeah, I just don't think they came out tonight with enough intensity or competitiveness. And I think that's the thing that's the most disappointing. It was almost as if the Warriors tonight came out as if they knew they were going to get beat and they just played with zero force. That's the disappointing thing. The fact that Kuminga and Podziemski and Moody collectively are all that bad going up against one of the true contenders in the league and in the conference, that to me is deeply concerning. And then there's the big picture concern. The big picture concern is this team is now 5-5, and they've got a game that I think becomes a must win on Sunday at Chase Center against Indiana. That to me is a game the Warriors have to get. Oh, by the way, what's Indiana's record, Kyle Haar? Do you know what Indiana's record is? You can take a quick guess, and then I'll give it to you because I do have it right here in front of me.
Please don't tell me that they only have 1 win, and their 1 win is against us.
The Pacers are 1-7.
Oh,
that's right. The Pacers are 1-7. The Pacers, by the way, and if you listen to Dubs OT, you know this, although I think we got a lot of smart listeners anyway, so they would know this. The Pacers have never lost at Chase Center. The Pacers have won every game that they've played at Chase Center. But no, you look at Indiana. Indiana has lost to the Thunder, the Grizzlies, the Timberwolves, the Mavs, the Hawks. Then they beat the Warriors, lost to the Bucks, the Nets, and they will have a shot at the Nuggets coming up before they play the Warriors. That's going to be a second of the back-to-back for Indiana. Indiana is in Denver right now, and they play Denver tomorrow in Denver before they come up to the Bay and take on the Warriors on Sunday. So they are 1-7, and for all intents and purposes, you'd think are going to be 1-8 when they come into Chase Center for the game on Sunday. So Indiana's that's a game you gotta get, but you're 5-5, and it goes back to this theme. And I think the game in Sacramento, hey, there was a competitive spirit there. Kings had enough guys who have done some stuff in their careers to still close that game out, and I think had a talent advantage to close that game out in Sacramento. That's a game, unfortunately, that, you know, the circumstances dictate you lose a game that I think you probably win if you can get Jimmy or Draymond even to play that game. Like, that's probably the game you could have won without Steph if one of the other two or both of them had been able to play, but they didn't. And now tonight winds up being basically lost before it even starts, even with Jimmy and Draymond coming back. And so these last two, I think, set you back to the games against Milwaukee and Indiana when the Warriors had opportunities essentially at full strength to get those games, playing much better basketball than they did tonight or on Wednesday or even on Tuesday in the game that they did win against the Suns, and they don't get those games. And so those games turn into losses. And now, because of the schedule and the health and everything else, you wind up being 5-5 with the Pacers coming in, and then you're going to OKC and you have two games, back-to-back games with an off day in between in San Antonio, and that's just the first half of what's going to be a 6-game road trip. You're like, well, JD, the Warriors can win on the road. The Warriors can win on the road. The Warriors can win on the road. Well, no, they can't, at least not yet in 2025-26. They won on opening night in LA down at Crypto.com Arena, and they have lost 5 straight road games since now. So 4-0 at home, 1-5 on the road. And I think this team now, as much as everything looked pretty good to begin the season, and I don't want to get carried away about the importance of what tonight meant, but this team's 5-5 now, and the schedule's going to get tougher. And I just think they're in a position where it's a lot of what we've seen last year before the Jimmy Butler trade, and a lot of what we saw 2 years ago, where this team is just going to be finding itself throughout the first 3 months of the year. And then at a point in which they're going to have to get extremely hot over the final 2 to 3 months of the season to avoid the play-in tournament again. It already feels, unless this team can really get a grip and get on a run here, that's the path that they're headed down again. And the reason I bring it up is because they believed that they built a team that was going to have the ability to avoid being in that position. And I think what we're seeing to this point through these first 10 games is it looks like a lot more of the same than it looks like this new team that has this depth, that can withstand this, and is not going to kick away games that they have opportunities to win when they are closer to full strength. Well, no, they've done that. And now you've got some of the schedule losses that have followed, and you're 5-5 with a potential to have this thing getting worse before it gets a little bit better. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. YouTube chat off and rolling. Appreciate everybody joining us on YouTube and Twitch. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. We'll get to some thoughts there coming up as well. Let's get Danny in Vancouver in here to tip us off on the phone lines tonight on this Friday. And then I'll give you some more individual thoughts on the game tonight, some specific things. I really stopped taking notes probably in the middle of the third quarter, because that's when I said, okay, this team's going to have to make a run, or none of this stuff that I'm jotting down is really going to matter all that much. But I did keep it together and keep it on point for the first half. But I think the big picture tonight is probably the better way to at least start the show. And then we can get into some of the individual details. But the lack of competitiveness is the number one thing that's the most disappointing aspect to this game, because you may not win, but you can at least show up and fight and make your presence felt. And I thought the Warriors did not do that. And it was really disheartening because Draymond and Jimmy were back. And it was really disheartening because this is an opportunity for young players like Kuminga and Moody and Pajemski, who we've seen all play well when all the veteran guys are there. And this is their opportunity to shine. And more often than not, these guys have not been able to do it without just assuming the role of role player around Steph and Jimmy and Draymond. And I think that in an 82-game season does wind up hurting this team, because I think there was a belief that those three in particular would have the ability to bring more to the table than we've seen them bring in a lot of these games. So, Danny, you're going to get us tipped off here. Welcome to the show. You're on the Sports Leader. It's Dubs OT with JD, and the Warriors lose this one tonight in Denver by the final of 129-104. What's going on, Danny?
Hey, JD. Nice to speak to you. Thanks for taking my call. Quite a few thoughts, but I'll keep it streamlined. It feels like this, this thing deja vu all over again. Kind of feels like last year they went 12-3, and then had a bunch of losses, and all the excitement that was built up, when they went to 12-3, kind of dissipated quickly. I knew that Denver would be tough, and the Warriors would have to play really well to win. The Nuggets shot really, really well, so I want to acknowledge that. Although, as you like to say, in a game like this, they need to feel us, and they didn't feel us at all on defense, I thought. So they were kind of having their way with 3-point shooting. There wasn't a lot of pressure, and the same suspects, Aaron Gordon and Murray and Jokic, were just shooting the lights out. So that was frustrating. My biggest concern, JD, was Kuminga, and obviously I want to hear your thoughts. Kuminga seems to have fallen back now into some bad habits the last few games. Originally he came out, he was moving the ball around, he was making good decisions, but now he seems to be falling back into those bad habits of last year, number one. Number two, I'm going to give Moody a pass because he's been playing quite well. He might have just had a bad shooting night and, just didn't have the rest of the team performing, which made it harder. I didn't think Butler did a lot today. He didn't, I was hoping he'd really take control, but they seemed to D up on him pretty well. But the most concerning person was, for me, Podz. And I don't know what it is. He seems to just he does a lot of dribbling now. Doesn't seem to be making good decisions. Threw some bad passes away. And one thing I noticed was that he just kind of dribble for about 18 seconds, and then made a quick pass or turnover, or tried a bad shot, and I just don't know. It just seems like he's just really ineffective this year, and he just doesn't seem to fit right now. And maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but would love to hear your feedback on that, JD. And have a safe flight home. I'm going to be down on Sunday, so I'll say hello. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Danny. Oh, Danny, just to give you a heads up and to give everybody a heads up, for Sunday, we're actually not going to be at Harmonic on Sunday. It's one of the few, because of the 49ers game. We're not going to be doing the show from Harmonic in Thrive City. There's a couple of them where there's some 49ers conflicts. So I'm actually going to be down at Levi's, and we are going to have a full Dubs OT show on Sunday after the game, but we're going to originate it from Levi's, because we'll have the Niner game and then the 49er post game, and then the Warrior game basically is going to start right when the Niner post game ends, and then we'll have a Dubs OT. So I'll catch you next time, Danny, for sure. But stop by and have a brew anyway if you want, and check out the show that way. But I owe you one, man, when the next time we're down there. Oh, thanks, Danny. Appreciate it. So yeah, just for everybody, there are a couple of games where we won't be at Harmonic and Thrive City. Not too many. It's like 2 or 3 out of hopefully 50 or 55 if you start counting some of the potential playoff games. But yeah, not going to be down there on Sunday because of the 49er broadcast and all of that. All right. Yet Podziemski, it's interesting. Podziemski and Kuminga. I was having a conversation with somebody today about both of them, because I'm with Danny in the sense that Kuminga has fallen back. I think it goes back to the Indiana game. Actually, I think in the Indiana game, and I made the point, Kyle, we did a stream only Dubs OT because the World Series was going on. It was Game 7 that night, and I was in New York, and we did the Dubs OT show. And that game, remember, that was the game where Kuminga, he had I think 5 dunks, but other than the dunks, he was I want to say he was 2 for 2 for 11 or 2 for 9, something like that. And there were some turnovers. The defense maybe wasn't as good. Like, he scored, but the defense wasn't as good in that game. And I think that started a little bit of a regression for Kuminga. And I think the motor hasn't quite been there the same. He did end up getting some rebounds tonight after kind of a slow start. But I do think that the defense has not been good for Kuminga. Really, this is the 1, 3rd, 4th game, all the fouling against Sacramento. He got himself in foul trouble, which I think took him out of the game as that game went on in Sacramento. I think he was really looking to pass and did that some tonight, but really looking to pass and kind of stay in the flow of the offense. I think he's been caught in these last couple of games without Steph in between trying to, do I want to look to really score more in the ways that I feel I can, kind of a la the Minnesota series, or do I want to try to do the things that the coaching staff has been getting, trying to get me to do throughout the course of training camp, and he'd been doing that. And so I feel like Kuminga's been caught a little bit in between staying in the offense and, should I be looking to be a little bit more ball dominant and try to score? And so I think, it's led to more turnovers. I think it's led to some more indecisiveness on the court. I think it's led to some poorer shots that he's taken. He's taken more of those mid-range again. He's taken more of those pull-ups again, which is not what you want. You want to be able, if you're Kuminga, to put your head down and get all the way to the basket and or get fouled. And if you're Kuminga, you want to be able to, if that can't happen, you want to kind of keep it moving and potentially get it back. Podz was the other part of the conversation I was having today. And it is just, he is so out of sync right now. And I don't know whether it's trying to do too much or whatever, but in his own head. It's very similar to the beginning of the season that he had last year. He's not taking good shots. He's over dribbling. He's over dribbling into bad passes. And honestly, he's a player who typically looks like he fits. Like, Kuminga has never really been a player that looks like he fits for the most part. I think some of that narrative has changed the way he played those first 5-6 games. Podziemski has always looked like a player who fits, even often on nights where he doesn't maybe play as well, because he doesn't make a lot of, catastrophic type mistakes, but he's making more bad mistakes in the early part of this season, to the point where really for the first time, he hasn't looked like he fits with, the other guys necessarily when they're whole. And I don't know, we mentioned this the other night, the Curry, Podziemski, Moody, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green 5, which was the Warriors' best 5 from a year ago, has not played a single second together this year. That was the group that started, and they were 17-4 or whatever they were when they started last year down the stretch. It was the primary group that started after the Jimmy Butler trade. So that group has not played. And that group, I think, when Podz is out there with the other 3, Moody's a stabilizer in terms of being able to be the point of attack defender and knock down shots, the 3-and-D, wing type player. He just does not look comfortable in some of these other lineups. He hasn't looked as comfortable in the times he's come off the bench. It has just been fewer and farther between. And for the first time, and I said this to somebody today, just kind of in a general basketball conversation, some of the things that I've said about Kuminga, it's starting to kind of land a little bit with Podziemski, and it's a short-term thing, so you don't really know how far you want to go with it. But does he fit? Does he fit on this team once they get – and I sort of likened it to Moody and Will Richard, because I think Moses Moody fits on any team. You can put Moses Moody on any team. He can be a 3-and-D wing. He could be a point of attack defender who keeps it moving or takes the right shot or whatever. And Will Richard looks like he's developing himself very quickly into being one of those type of players as well. And those players are the types of players that the Warriors are going to need with Steph and Jimmy and Draymond more than I think any other type of player, whether it's somebody that does what Kuminga does or somebody that does what Podziemski does. And it was really just kind of the first time as you start to look at, are the Warriors going to have to make a move at some point, later on? I think, and again, the jury is still out maybe a little bit here, but I think we're starting to head down a path to where the Warriors are going to have to make a move at the trade deadline. Basically, they are going to have to augment this roster. And the Warriors don't sound like they're concerned or have any kind of worry or panic or anything about where they're at. It's kind of let a couple games get away. Those Milwaukee and Indiana games haunt. The last two games are what they are. You can't really expect to beat anybody when you don't have all three guys playing. You're certainly not going to beat Denver when you don't have Steph playing. But they feel like they have enough to kind of get it going as the season rolls on. I'm not so sure, because again, the goal for this team is, what can you provide? Can you provide enough throughout the long haul to win enough to where you can keep everybody fresh and ready for a playoff run to a greater extent than you did last year, because all of the extra minutes that you had to play in March and April and against Houston wound up leading you down the path of Steph Curry breaks down in the first game against Minnesota, and then your season's cooked anyway at that particular point in time. So 808 KNBR, those are some general thoughts on Kuminga, some general thoughts on Podziemski. Kuminga has fallen back. I would agree with that. And Podziemski has got to figure it out. Again, he got off to a bad start last year and wound up being a really productive player among the Warriors' best lineups. I think he can do it again, but we're getting, I think, also to the point where Steve Kerr is going to have to start maybe tinkering some more, which I know is not anything that any Warrior fan really wants to hear at this point. But I think there's going to be some lineup changes coming here shortly, and we'll see how long Steve will roll with it. But this team's got to get a win against Indiana on Sunday, and then they got to figure out a way to not fall too far under 500 here over the course of the next week, to where they even have an uphill climb just to get back to that point. That's the other concerning thing about the 5-5 as opposed to 6-4 or 7-3. And I think, nobody would have believed with this team at 4-1 that they'd be sitting here, a week and a half later, and they've gone 1-4 with the schedule that they had coming up. No Giannis against Milwaukee. Indiana doesn't have anybody and hasn't beaten anybody else. And then you're playing the Suns and Kings up before this game. I mean, I think people would have thought, hell, even before this game, the Warriors would have been, at a minimum 7-2 coming into this game, given the way they had played. And now it's injuries and it's the long haul and it's all that stuff kind of catching up with them. And now they find themselves in a position where they've got to try to stabilize this thing in the next week, or they might be really fighting an uphill battle. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. We are overdue for our first time out here. So let's go ahead and do that. Couple of lines open. We'll get into the YouTube chat as well, the best YouTube chat in sports, as the Warriors get blown out tonight. No Steph, no wins, but a lack of competitiveness, which I think is probably, along with the young players' poor play, the most alarming things to come out of tonight. And the Warriors finding themselves, I think, in a little bit of trouble here at 5-5. Suddenly, we're here, we're talking about it. It's Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Way downtown. Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Jimmy Butler, 5 points so far in this one. Warriors turn it over again. 8 turnover. Murray stops, pops, hits. 17 points off of turnovers alone for the Nuggets.
Yeah, that's part of the story. Warriors get blown out in Denver, 129-104 is the final. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Only 12 turnovers for the Warriors, which is actually a good number. Denver had 8, and another part of the story in this one is just the Warriors' defense, for the most part, has not been there to begin the season. I think you could make the case, 10 games in? I think it's 8 or 9. 8 out of the 10 games, I think you could safely make the case that the Warriors' defense is just not up to par. And if you want to throw out the Sacramento game because they didn't have any of their guys playing, I think that's something that could be fair as well. But yeah, you look at the Warriors defensively, not been good. The Clipper game was the one game that kind of stands out to me that was, a quality, capable playoff caliber type defense. But Denver's great offensively. It's their starting lineups the best in the NBA, the early going. I mean, yeah, Jokic leading the league in assists, going for 26 in 28 minutes as well with 9 assists. And they're just a freaking machine. But again, not a lot of resistance tonight. So I think the defense has been disappointing here through the first 10 games overall, as we kind of look at the big picture. And I think tonight, just the way that the young players played, just completely outclassed the Warriors' young players against Denver, one of the contending teams, without Steph. But without Steph, but you do have Jimmy Butler and you do have Draymond Green, who are there to try and help elevate some of these young players to be able to play at a more respectable level, let's say, than we saw in the ball game tonight. Really, the only young player that played well for the Warriors was Quentin Post, who had 14 points and helped the Warriors get back into the game there in the second quarter briefly before the Nuggets got really hot from 3 and wound up putting the game away, I think, for the first time at that point. 808 KNBR, we're going to get to the YouTube chat here, the best YouTube chat in sports on Dubs OT, but let's go to the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line really quickly here. The 408 chiming in. JD, tell me how, if Curry or Butler miss more than 10 or 15 games, they're not going to be a lottery team. Well, part of it is not giving up games like the Milwaukee game and the Indiana game. That's part of it. And I also think, and I alluded to this in the first segment of the show, I also think they're going to have to make a move. I just think that I don't think that they have enough quality depth. A couple of areas here, and you say, JD, well, you're saying they got to make a move. Well, what backup ball handler right now? How about, does this team have a true backup point guard right now? And I think the hope was that Brandon Pajemski could be that guy, and DeAnthony Melton could eventually help potentially be that guy. But if you're looking at two things that maybe you wouldn't have thought the Warriors would have on their needs list, that suddenly through 10 games, I'm starting to, as we learn more about this team, add to the list. It's, do they need a backup point guard? Do they need somebody that can go in the game and handle the ball and get his own shot, get shots for others, create? Pajemski's supposed to be somebody that has the ability to do that a little bit, and it just has not been there. Pajemski has been, as much as anybody, a player that almost can only function if Steph's out there and Draymond's out there and Jimmy Butler's out there. And, that could prove to have him be a valuable player for you. But to get through the regular season, winning a lot of these games and setting yourself up for a playoff run, you need somebody that can kind of get their own. Now, look, they've got a guard logjam coming because Melton is going to come back into that mix, and then you still have Buddy Hield. You have Moody who can play some small forward, but Moody seemingly is always going to be tied to Kuminga. If Kuminga's around, then Moody's going to have to probably play more of the 3 and the 2. I think Moody is probably more of a 3 than a 2. But if he's going to play the 3, you want him out there with Jimmy, then Jimmy's got to play the 4. If you want him out there with Draymond, then Draymond's got to play the 5. And then what do you do with Kuminga at that point? So they've got guards, but I think the question that they're going to have to ask themselves is, do they need to go get somebody that's just a bona fide, put the ball in his hands, lead guard type of a scorer to help maybe make up for some of these nights where the vets either don't have it or the vets are off? Because I think that's the one thing that was probably lacking in each of these last 2 games. It's that guy that can just kind of go off when you need somebody to go off and just take a little bit of the ball handling pressure off somewhat. So that's one thing. But again, that's more of a regular season need and less of a playoff need, because I think in the playoffs, you kind of like your system and you like the guys that you have and all of that. The other thing is, if this is the production they're going to get top to bottom from the centers, whether it's Horford or Post, and I think Horford's going to have to play better, but whether it's Horford or Post or Draymond, and if TJD is going to be in the mix, although I don't think TJD is really going to be in the mix of any consequence as the games get bigger, they probably they might need to add a big man that to the mix that can come off the bench a little bit. So no firm statements to that at this point. But again, now we are 10 games in, and you start to kind of figure out, all right, this is how it looks when they have everybody. This is how it looks when somebody's out. This is how it looks when they play good teams. This is how it looks when they play bad teams. This is how it looks when they're home versus on the road. And again, time for things to kind of settle, and maybe some of these early need decisions are not necessarily as they would seem on this Friday night when you get blown out without Steph Curry. But the one thing that I firmly believe right now is that this team is not, as they're currently constituted, built well enough to be good enough in the regular season to where they will be in a good enough position to make a run. And to the texter's point, JD, what makes you think there are a lot of bad teams, I think, in the West. So I think the Warriors right now look like a play-in team. The Warriors right now look like a play-in team, which is exactly what they were last year. But you would think and say, hey, wait, full year of Jimmy Butler and another year of Moody seasoning himself, and Kuminga has been better than the Kuminga we've seen in the past in terms of contributing to winning through 10 games. Not every game, but for the most part. And another year of Pajemski. And you add all that up, you add Horford, you're getting Melton back, which we can't really factor in. The belief is, well, wait a minute, this team should not be one that's just going to linger around 500 and then have to get hot down the stretch. And maybe they ultimately aren't going to have to be that. But to me, they look very much like a different version of the same from last year and even the year before. All right, let's get to the YouTube chat, our first installment of Kyle's Clicks. We're going to do an expanded Kyle's Clicks tonight as well, so we're going to go about 10 minutes here with a lot of comments, and then we'll take a little time out. We'll do some more comments in the third segment as well. Kyle been monitoring things from our San Francisco studios, and he says it's been a good comment night. A lot of intelligent comments tonight. So, Kyle, let's get it rolling here on Dubs OT with our comments of the night. Dig up 117. What happened to how deep this team was supposed to be? Been trying to figure that out, right? And it always comes back to, and what you've got the depth that looks good when you have everybody, and you got the depth that looks good when you start taking guys away. And the Warriors, I think, thought they had the kind of depth they had both. I think the Warriors believe they have both. I think they thought they had the kind of depth that looks really good when you have everybody. And I think to this point that's been true, especially when you factor in DeAnthony Melton coming back and maybe Horford at some point playing better. The depth when you have everybody, I think they like. The problem is the depth when you start taking guys away. And the depth when you start taking guys away is more important than the depth when you have everybody. Because the depth when you start taking guys away is the difference between being a 7, 8, 9 seed and being a 4, 5, 6 seed. Point blank, bottom line, end of story. That's where it has to get to. That's where it has to get to if you're going to put this thing in the right position. Joe H., you're having a losing effort if Draymond is your high scorer. Yeah. I mean, Draymond hits 5 threes, and on a night where again they have everybody, you're thinking, wow, that could be really good. But no, he basically was taking those shots because nobody else was hitting them. Let's continue to move on. Thanks, Joe H. Gene McIntyre, going to be a long season. Every year since 22, all I hear is they have a lot of depth, but they're all below average NBA players, and it shows night in, night out, and tonight's a night where it gets exposed. If you're that far away from a contending team with only Steph gone, it was only Steph tonight, you got a problem. You got a problem as it relates to your depth. And again, the easiest way I can understand, and I know people are frustrated. I'm going to give you another thing. I just saw Woodpit 420 pop up. The schedule so far is outrageous. I'm just going to say I'm sick of people whining about the schedule. I'm sick of people whining about the schedule. The schedule is the schedule, and again, I put the onus on the Warriors. They know they were going to be another year older. They knew they were going to have to, that there were going to be long stretches of the season. Now, they happen to maybe come at the beginning, whereas maybe the Warriors would want the back-to-backs and the 3 and 4s and the 5 and 8s and all of that, 6 and 10s to be spread out more throughout the season. That's fine. But the complaining about the schedule, you have an older team, you have some unproven young players on your older team, then you need to build the freaking roster with the ability to withstand it and not use the schedule as an excuse, not use the schedule as something to whine about. And I'm not coming down your road, Woodpit, but it just, you've heard it a lot. Oh, the schedule. You have an old team. There are going to be areas of the schedule that are going to be unfavorable. Build your team to where you can withstand it. Or how about don't trick away games in Milwaukee without Giannis and games in Indiana without Tyrese Halliburton playing for the Pacers? Because if you win both of those games, you can punt essentially on the Sacramento game, and you can get your ass kicked in the game tonight because Steph Curry gets sick, and you're still 7-3, and you're feeling really good going home to face Indiana to get to 8-3 before you go on the road to play OKC and 2 games in San Antonio. You got to win the games you're supposed to win. Rich Ray, losing 4 out of the last 5 games and how it looked just feels like something's wrong. I'm with you, Rich Ray. I am with you, Rich Ray. This is not like this. This feels like pre-Jimmy Butler trade Warriors from last year right now. This feels like 2 years ago, going to have to get on a run middle of January, or you're going to be the 11 seed with 10 teams making the play-in, and they end up being the 10th team in the play-in, they get blown out in Sacramento. But if you remember, they had to go 23-8 last year, and they were still 7th. They went 23-8, and they were still 7th because they were 1 under when they started that run in February after the Jimmy Butler trade. They had to go 27-12 over the last 39 games 2 years ago in a deeper Western Conference just to get to the 10 seed. Now, I think there are a lot of really bad teams. Like I think the one thing I will say, I do think there are You've got your bottom 5, and I think a couple other teams that are in that mix. But you look at the way San Antonio's playing, you look at the way Portland is playing, and the Warriors could very easily, if they can't get their act together, end up in the 9-10 game. Like that, and I know that's like, oh my God, outrageous. How can you say that, JD? Like this team is good enough to avoid that, but they got to play like it. And I'm with you. It's the defense. It's the lack of motivation. It's Podziemski, the way Podziemski's looked, almost like a player that doesn't fit. It's Kuminga doing the right things, right? But yet they're still 5-5, right? If you were telling me Kuminga was going to play the way Kuminga's played, they're still 5-5. I'm not even putting it on him. So that I think is alarming here. But yeah, something feels off. JC Mack, the dub system doesn't work without Steph. Nuggets scoring so easily, just drive and kick. Yeah, the drive and kick tonight. I mean, the closeouts on threes tonight, just terrible. Warriors pass, turnover, Apache. And I think that's the other problem. The other problem, and you're right, the system doesn't work without Steph. I would agree with that. I think that is a fair statement. The question, though, becomes, what do you do when Steph's out? When you have all these players that are so used to playing in this system, do you play the system or do you scrap the system? And here's my other question. If you scrap the system, then what's the system? ISO Jimmy Butler, just throw it to him on the post and let everybody cut off of him and try to, because Jimmy ain't saving this either. I mean, here's the other thing. You're getting regular season Jimmy now. And, I think Jimmy's been fine overall, but you're not getting save our ass, carry it Jimmy Butler right now without Steph. And I think, part of getting Jimmy Butler is you thought, hey, if Jimmy plays and Steph doesn't, you could maybe still win some of these games because Jimmy can elevate the level of a lot of these young guys. And, at least tonight against one of the top maybe 2 or 3, 4 teams in the league, that was not the case. So I don't know what you want to do in terms of changing the system potentially with Steph out. JD, joke's on you, writes JD, welcome to Future Life without Steph. You're cooked when a center can guard your point guard and Gordon can pick on anyone due to size. No Warriors can create a shot. No individual brilliance at all. Yeah, none of it. And we knew that. Like, we know Podz is not that dude. We know Moody's not that dude. And it's unfair. I mean, Moody is, and I think, Moody, and we've talked about, is the most playable, best fit with the other veteran championship core guys. But like, I've said it for a year, none of these guys, Kuminga maybe could be that guy on a bad team, but like, none of these guys are good enough on their own to hold it up. Like, and I don't even expect them to. But yeah, you talk about the future without Steph. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I don't see a world where you're building anything around Podziemski, Kuminga, and Moody without Steph. Like, the Warriors are going to have to, if that's 2-3 years down the line. I mean, 2-3 years is a long time. Like, I would be willing to bet that Kuminga and Podziemski aren't even on the team at that point. If it's life without, like, I would be willing to bet that Podziemski and Kuminga in 2028 or 2029, let's say, if Steph's gone by then, it's a scenario. Like, I don't think it's good. Well, it's Podziemski and Kuminga and Moody, and they're winning 27 games a year. Like, no, they're going to make some moves to try to get some other players in here. Like, I think they know they can't build around those guys and have it be a playoff type situation. Bennett Roth, the season started exactly like last year so far, 12-3, then 3-12. This year 4-1, 1-4. Yeah, it's been a mini version of that, to be sure. But it is kind of crazy how quickly we got down the path of it feeling like the same old long-ass regular season slog. I will say that. Like, we are to that point where it does feel that way. All right, let's get Adam in San Jose in on the phone lines here. We'll break up some of the comments here in the YouTube chat. Adam, you're on Dubs OT. here on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Adam?
Hey, JD. Good. Thank you. So everyone keeps talking about we have Melton coming back. We have Seth Curry coming back as if they're going to save our season. Melton is coming off an Achilles injury, and we're not guaranteed to get the best version of him. We got to give him the same doubt that we gave Clay after he returned from an Achilles injury.
Let me jump in real quick. Adam, let me jump in real quick. Melton is coming off an ACL, not an Achilles. So it is a little bit different with Melton. Although he has been injury plagued with a bunch of different injuries his whole career, but Melton's injury was the knee and not the Achilles.
Okay, but they're both catastrophic injuries that really change a guy's career. And Melton has been an injury-prone player his whole career, so we're not guaranteed to get the best version of him when he returns. And then as far as Steph goes, there's a reason why no other team really pursued him in the offseason, and there's a reason why no team is currently pursuing him. He's a free agent right now. Anyone can be going after him, but he's sitting there waiting on the Warriors to make the phone call for him to come into the practice facility. And then as far as Moody goes, Moody has been the most inconsistent player we've had for the past few years. He'll have a couple of good nights, and then he'll go on this long stretch of bad nights. Pajemski's just been a horrific player the last 2 years. Honestly, in my opinion, he doesn't even deserve to be in the league. Jimmy is not the same Miami Jimmy. He looks like he's father time is catching up with him. Draymond's only effective when Steph is playing. I think this team is just not good enough. We need to really consider what we want to do, whether it's, going out before the trade deadline and getting some good pieces. But I don't think there's one piece that's going to come in here and fix our issues. I don't believe in our entire bench. We came into the season thinking that we had a deep bench. I have not been a believer in that. And it's my case is being proven. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. I'll chime in on a bunch of that. I don't think anybody thinks Seth Curry's going to be a savior for this team, but he's somebody. I mean, he's back into the roster. He might have played on a night like tonight, but that first and foremost, his name has only come up, and I think part of why other teams haven't gone after him is because the Warriors are going to sign him, and he wants to be with the Warriors, and so that's just kind of a formality there. I disagree with you on Podz the last couple of years, saying he's been a horrible player. Again, file that away for those that are consistently way too down on Podz. That being said, he has not played well to begin this season. He did not play well to begin last season and found his way out of the funk. The part about Moody, I think, again, by far is the most consistent, steady player if he's going to get regular time with Steph and Jimmy and Draymond. Like, he is the one among their young players that I think can be the most consistent in his role with those guys and be a playoff caliber type, even closing lineup player when he is playing at his when he's making shots and defending. And so I think Moody is fine. Overall, he was bad tonight, but Moody's actually the one between Pajemski and Kuminga that I would be the least worried about as far as the young players go. And look, here's the deal with Melton. Melton is a playoff player. Like, Melton is a guy that you're hoping you can get through the regular season and not have to play him a ton, so you can play him in the playoffs. And he is not somebody that's going to come in and save your regular season, is probably the best way I can put it. Melton is somebody that you would want to have out there with Steph and Jimmy and Draymond, and you'll pick your fifth depending upon the night. But he's not somebody that's going to come in and be playing all these minutes and all these games in the regular season that's going to be the difference between, you winning some of these. He's not going to be that guy that's going to, on a night like tonight, be playing and carry you to a win or anything like that. Now, maybe a few minutes more of him in a Milwaukee or an Indiana game and a few minutes less of a Podz or a few minutes less of a Buddy Hield, that could be the difference between maybe winning and losing a couple of those games, and then we're having a different conversation. But no, in the regular season, I don't think that Melton is some grand scheme savior, but I do think he's somebody that if they can keep him healthy for the playoffs, can be a really positive player in the playoffs for the Warriors. But as far as like what to do and where to go at the deadline, I think they're going to have to make a move, a couple of moves to be able to get through the regular season. And, they may have to try to do it sooner than later because I don't think they have enough regular season players for when they're going to be shorthanded is probably the best way to say it. 707 next year on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader in Sonoma. What's going on, 707?
Oh, not much. Just, I was just driving, getting home, listening to Adam's call, and it got me fired up. So I had to call in because, everyone's got our own different opinions on the Dubs, and we've been so fortunate, like getting to have Steph in our backyard, getting to turn on our local network to watch this guy who's, I'm 31, but yeah, LeBron's been a special player, done everything and continues. But what Steph does is it's unbelievable. And we're so lucky to have him. His career, obviously we've had all the different Dubs. We had, the young Dubs, and then we had KD's Dubs, and then, the surprise 2022. But we still got this core that, it was a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, where Dubs got off to this amazing start, and everyone's talking about how great they are. And now they go through a little funk, Steph's out, surprise, surprise. But it's November, and this team, they've shown us what they can do when they're healthy. And really, we're talking about April. And if Steph stays healthy last year, do we not get past the Wolves? And who knows after that? So I think it's crazy, overreactions all over the place, but it's a long year.
Appreciate the call. There's no question. It is a long year. And my question would be, and as it has been, do they have enough? Yes, when the main guys play, it's a good team. When the main guys play and Kuminga's bought in and Moody's hitting shots and all that, when those things are happening, it's a good team. But are you going to get enough of that for enough games to where you're not going to be a 7 seed and make a run? You're just not. You got to get into the top 6. They got a favorable matchup last year in the first round playing against Houston. That's a series they could have won and did win. And then even that series physically took a toll to where it basically broke Steph in the first game. The fact that they had to play a couple of those extra games, the fact that he had to play so many minutes to get the Warriors over the hump to close that series out. And it wound up being part of the reason why he ended up breaking down. Now, yeah, I believe they would have had a great chance to beat Minnesota if Steph had not, I think they would have. If Steph had not gotten hurt, I think they win that series. If Steph comes back for game 6, maybe they even win that series, although I think that's less, that's more of a 50-50. But the bottom line for me is I like this team. I still think they're a player away when they have everybody. But I think if there's one thing, you're 10 games in and you've basically had the team that you want for, 6, 7 of the games. And if you're going to lose every game, you don't have the team you want on the court, then you're just not going to win enough to be where you need to be in avoiding the play-in tournament and being top. They're talking about top 4, top 6. These first 10 games is any indicator. They got no shot at that. They're going to have to play a lot better and or improve the roster, in my mind, to get to that point. And I think that means look to make some moves to smooth out the rotation to where you have guys that can help you win some games when you're a little bit shorthanded, while also having guys that you believe can be in your closing lineups in the playoff games that really matter, so you're not overtaxing everybody along the way to a point where you just break down at the end of the first round of the playoffs or early in the second round. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back. We're gonna scrap Sounds of Dubs OT tonight. We might play one cut, maybe two, but for the most part, we're going to scrap it. It's been a good call night. It's been a great YouTube chat night. We're going to go Kyle's Clicks. We're going to go a truncated edition of Fun with Numbers as well. And we'll also let everybody know that we've got more coming your way tomorrow in the morning from 11. It's going to be a real short 11 to 11:45 after 49er forecast with Larry Krueger. We'll have a quick first just dubs for 2025-26 as well. So that's coming up. If you didn't get all your full fill of what you needed in terms of dubs coverage tonight, we got you covered a little bit tomorrow morning in addition to that. So Dubs OT with JD, we're rolling on here. More of the YouTube chat, more calls, more texts, all straight ahead right here in the Sports Leader.
sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, Warriors lose in Denver. Final tonight, 129-104. Dubs OT with JD. We're rolling on here. 808 KNBR. It's been a good call night. 415-808-5627. Still about 15 minutes or so to go in the program. We're going to get a lot of chats here before we call it a night, but we're going to do a truncated version of Sounds of Dubs OT. It's going to be just 2 clips tonight. It's no Steve Kerr. Big theme of the night post-game in Denver was the Warriors' defense. So let's go Draymond Green first here, talking about the Warriors' defensive struggles, which have been a thing here really in 9 of the first 10 games for the Warriors. Draymond addressing that tonight.
Number one is taking the challenge, personal challenge. You gotta take the personal challenge to guard your man. Then if you get beat, there's help. But I think right now we're just relying on the help to beat them. But when you don't give effort, then help can't get there. So starts individually. Everybody must take the challenge individually to guard their man, and then you build off from there. I felt. If our defense looked, I felt. So you send as many messages as you want to until we do it. I'm feeling it.
All right, so Draymond Green there talking about point of attack. I know that's you got to have the effort to try and keep your man in front of you, and then that trust that the help is going to be there. So maybe a little bit too much put on the help defense, and then Draymond kind of owning it. Yeah, we got to bleeped out Draymond tonight as well. But yeah, Draymond owning, saying he's failed for the Warriors defense to be as bad as it is with the bleep mixed in there. So we'll see. That's the one thing, I think you look at post Jimmy Butler trade from last year, the Warriors were basically a top 3 to 5 defense. At times they were the number 1 defense in the NBA through that stretch, but they were a top defense in the league over those final 2 months. And they have not been anything close to that except for the one game against the Clippers, I think, where they played exceptional defense in that particular game. All right, let's go to Jimmy Butler as well. He spoke to the media in the locker room in Denver as well. And Jimmy also asked about what the issues are in terms of the defense.
What are you seeing with regards to the defensive breakdowns up to this point?
Some more effort, you know what I'm saying? Maybe a little bit more KYP at the same time. But defense is all if you want to do it. Whether you're on the ball, whether you're in the gap, whether you're the low man. If you want to do it, you want to do it.
What does KYP mean?
Is everything effort versus X's and O's right now?
I mean, for us, it's always going to be a lot of effort. Like, we have some really smart basketball players. Obviously, one of the greatest coaches ever, incredible coaching staff. So, you can't even point the blame on them because they put us in a position to be hella successful. It's on us to go out there and execute. It's on us to go out there and play hard as hell. And so, it's on us to go out there and actually compete and win. So they do a hell of a job getting us ready, scouts, all of that good stuff. It's on the guys on the soccer to go out there and compete at a high level.
All right, so competitive spirit, something that comes up there. KYP, know your personnel. For those that didn't know, I think that was a combination. You heard Danny Emmerman there. You heard Sam Gordon of the Chronicle, and little Dalton Johnson all chiming in there with Jimmy Butler. And credit to Sam Gordon there for the first video, and Dalton. I'm sorry, for the second one, the audio that we grabbed there. Credit to Sam Gordon and Dalton Johnson for the 2 clips that we played on the scene there from Denver after the Warriors lost. So quick addition there of Sounds of Dubs OT from Draymond and from Jimmy Butler, because aside from just the young players playing so poorly and the lack of competitive spirit across the board without Steph tonight, the defense, I think, is the big X's and O's issue that was put on blast by a great offensive team in the Nuggets, but it's been something that's been an issue for the Warriors, really, I think, in almost every game that they've played to this point. So, all right, before we get to fun with numbers, we're going to do another expanded edition here of Kyle's Clicks. Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studio. So, Kyle, let's just go rapid fire here. I'll try to limit my comments. I will try not to do a 5-minute comment again on everything. Greg Silver, well, the Kuminga 1 week long honeymoon was fun. Yes, that is a fact. Jonathan Kuminga, it was a little longer than that. It was almost 2 full weeks. It was almost two full weeks. But it started to turn against Indiana, and he played pretty well in the first half against the Kings. But he has been less and less effective over the last week, and so it's going to be interesting because the one thing the Warriors do have to do, even if he continues to play himself into a position where he is, not in the plans and is more of a doesn't fit guy than a does fit guy. They do. And I think to this point, they've done a nice job of, hey, everything's great. Everybody's happy. Everybody loves JK. Great effort. Like, you have to keep appearances up in a sense that, because the moment anything leaks out, the moment it starts to be known that either he's unhappy or the Warriors are unhappy, maybe with him, or he gets pulled from the starting lineup, then it immediately changes the value of what you can trade for him. So that you have to kind of keep appearances up that everybody's working together. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, 1 week long. I'm going to say closer to 2. Joe H., I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make the postseason at all. On the table, I think they will be good enough to figure it out and change the roster and find a way to consistently enough get through to where they make the playoffs. I would bet on the Warriors making the playoffs at this point, even if they have to go via the play-in tournament. But, I mean, you look at the standings just real quickly running through, and it's very early, but in the West, OKC, I mean, are the Warriors contenders with OKC right now? No. Are they contenders with Denver right now? I would say no in terms of a full playoff series. The Lakers, we know they can beat, but San Antonio and Portland are improved. Houston is a really good team now with KD. Minnesota's good, and after that, there's a lot of the Clippers, I think, find their way back in the mix. Dallas is in shambles right now. Worst team in the Western Conference at 2-7. That's right. You heard me correctly. Dallas. So, OKC right now, Denver, the Lakers for now, because they have a 7-2 record, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt there. Houston, I would say, is a 4th team. Minnesota right now as a 5th team, and then the 2 newbies, San Antonio and Portland. But I think there still is a realistic shot at 6 for the Warriors. I would not, though, put them at this point ahead of OKC or Denver or Houston. Lakers, we'll see. Not for right now, but I think, the 5-6 spots are still open. I think there's a lot of Phoenix, Memphis, Sac, Utah, Pelicans, Mavs. I think the Warriors are still better than all those teams. So at a minimum, I think that puts them in the worst case scenario right now for the Dubs. The worst case scenario feels like they're like a 9 play-in team, an 8-9 kind of a play-in team. Apollo Crews, they wanted Steph to take the back seat. These young guys still ain't doing nothing. I think that's been a little overblown again, but yeah, none of these guys are sniffing anything close to that. Ridstar Nova, Podz and Kuminga have shining moments, but they're more frustrating to watch. If anything, yeah, it's amazing how they've both kind of found themselves over the last week and a half here in the same boat, like both equally frustrating in the ways that they both can be frustrating when they're not playing well. Good comment there. Next one is from Miguel Talks Football. Warriors still lack size, depend heavily on perimeter shooting, and do not drive the paint. They do need to do it more. Part of the reason they don't do it, they don't have enough players who can put their head down and get to the cup. They really don't. And unless you're driving closeouts where the defense is completely off balance, it just has not been something that they've shown an ability to they just don't have players that beat you off the dribble to create for themselves or others. And Podz isn't it, Kuminga isn't it. Steph's really the only guy who can create his own off the dribble and get it. Andis Brown, Nuggets had really good non-Joker minutes. Valanciunas has been a great signing. Yeah, Valanciunas is a good player, and he was really good tonight. And, yeah, they have been not only tonight but in other games. That was a real problem for Denver the last couple of years, and that's why they went and got Valanciunas. The Kings wanted off his salary. He wanted to go back overseas, but the Nuggets ended up with not allowing him out of the contract. So basically he's going to be with Denver here. I believe he's under contract for the next 2 years, if memory serves, at least for this year, which will help Denver. Yeah, Valanciunas is good. I think Denver's really got it dialed with the players that they brought back off their bench. They now have a nice balance after Joker and Murray and Gordon of young players and veteran players, to where they're not putting too much on the young players in their roles, and they have some veterans that can step in and play, whether it's Valanciunas or Bruce Brown or Tim Hardaway Jr. Cam Johnson's more of a role player, I think, than Michael Porter Jr. was, and he hasn't even really played all that well in terms of his shooting yet. But I like the Nuggets team, and yeah, Valanciunas is somebody I would have liked to have seen the Warriors maybe look at, but he also, I don't think the Kings were necessarily trading him to them. And he is more of the traditional rebounding, big post up, interior, although he hit a couple of threes tonight. His style doesn't seem to fit the Warriors and what they want out of their bigs, unfortunately. But I think he could have been a nice complement to what they currently have. Robert Brown Podz was good his rookie year. It was last year and this year where he's been like this. I think he got back to where he was in his rookie year as the season went on last year. This is the worst he's looked. I will say, I feel this is the worst he's looked. I thought even worse. I think he's looked even worse. I know he wasn't making shots at the beginning of last year, but he figured it out last year. So can he figure it out this year? We shall see. But I don't think Podz was bad last year at all. Bees knees. Kuminga is an amazing talent. 5th-year player scoring 7 points in big games without Steph on the court. Yeah, that was not good. But the one thing I will say in defense of Kuminga, I think they've been steadfast in telling him they don't want the Minnesota Kuminga to come out in these games. I think they want Kuminga to keep doing what they've asked him to do in training camp and at the beginning of the year, which is play the way that you're going to play when everybody's around. And if you can do that, then you can help us level up when we have everybody to a point to where maybe you can actually be a playoff caliber, where you can actually be a productive playoff player for the first time in your career. Because Kuminga's never played he hasn't played hardly any meaningful playoff minutes throughout the course of his entire career. And I know people are saying, "Oh, what about those 4 games?" Nope. Not at all. Remember, this team couldn't win 1 game without Steph. Joke's on you. I remember. I remember. And it's why the loss to Sacramento wasn't surprising, even with all the guys the Kings had out. And it's why tonight, certainly as bad as it looked, was not surprising as well. All right, couple more. Woodpit 420. Our D was top 3 in stretches late last year. It's shockingly bad so far this year. To me, that is an effort thing. I feel like that is, and Jimmy said it, Draymond said it, that is an effort thing. That is it's October and November, and we don't really feel like busting our ass on defense thing, as opposed to last year when it was February, and they had to get their ass in gear. Otherwise, they were going to be a team that was going to miss the playoffs completely, even after the Jimmy Butler trade, and that was going to be a very bad look. So it falls under the category of you can do it for 2 months, but you can't do it for 6 months. But at some point, you're going to have to start doing it, or the fact that you're not doing it becomes ingrained in your DNA and who you are as a basketball team. And I think that's the area in which the Warriors, through 10 games, are dangerously close to finding. And that, unfortunately for them, has been something that was really problematic for them last year before the Jimmy trade, 2 years ago, really for the entire season. And they fixed it somewhat down the stretch, but the bad habits were why they didn't have a better record, and they ultimately went home sooner than they wanted to. Bennett Roth, Dunleavy, should have said yes to throwing Podz into that trade to get Markkanen. I don't know about that. I don't go that far. I'm not going to go that far. If the Warriors had thrown Podz in the Markkanen deal in 2024, so we're going back a year and a half, then Jimmy Butler wouldn't be on the team. And if Jimmy Butler's not on the team and Lauri Markkanen is, the Warriors would not be in a really good spot right now. They'd be in a worse spot. If the Warriors had no Podz and Markkanen and no Jimmy, they'd be in trouble. JC Mack, just get Clay back and make a good story about the season. I got no desire for Klay Thompson to be back on the Warriors. None whatsoever.
He's like the worst offensive rated player in the league so far.
I did see that. It is early, Kyle. I did see that. It's bad. No, that you do not want Klay Thompson back right now. That is absolutely, because then you find because Klay Thompson's not a finishing player. He's not a closing player right now. Like he's not a closing lineup player, but he's going to come back to the Warriors and just be cool not being a closing lineup player. Like no chance. That would not interest me at all if I'm the Warriors, and I got to think it probably doesn't. Although, yeah, the Mavs have said they're open to moving Klay. All right, how many more do we want to do, Kyle? You let me know. I'm good. Keep continuing a few more. You let me know what you want to do, though.
Yeah,
it's your role.
Let's do one more and then comment of the night.
All right, let's do one more. And no, it has nothing. It has nothing to do with Meg. It has nothing to do with Meg. Chat, come on, Meg's welcome. Come on now. All right. Go ahead, Kyle. Give me the next one. Apollo Crews, the oldest guy scored the most tonight. That's concerning. That is concerning. The oldest guy.
Specifically, Draymond scoring the most tonight.
Well, Draymond. I mean, you look. Draymond had 17. Jimmy had 16. QP, Quentin Post had 14, and then it was Will Richard 12, Buddy 8. But yeah, the top two were Draymond and Jimmy. If Draymond's your leading scorer at under 20, you're in trouble. All right, let's get our comment of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Joe H. At least Horford didn't miss any shots tonight. Oh. Yeah, he did not. And as somebody said during the game, when I think Kuminga had 3 and Podz had 2 and Moody had 0, they all got more than they all got 2. Podz has got 2 more than Steph, and Kuminga's got 3 more than Steph. Yikes! Yeah, not good. Not good at all. So we will end it on that note. Let's do a quick fun with numbers. So yeah, we can play the thing and all that. So yeah, go for it.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
Yeah, and a bonus comment. San Jose Jazz fan ate Moody and JK ate bagels at halftime. Yeah, it was not good. Not good. Not good at halftime. Everyone in the chat combined logged the same amount of minutes as Horford. We got some bonus chats tonight. People are showing out. This has been a good show. This has been one of the better shows. You never know what you're going to get. Friday night, we got some calls tonight. We got a lot of people fired up in the chat tonight as well. So we we'll end it on that note here with a few notes. 5-5 overall. The home road thing is a problem because manufacturing energy on the road, I think, is something that old teams have a difficulty in doing, and also role players, especially young ones, play better at home than they do on the road. And so that's a little bit of a trend. Worst loss of the season for the Warriors. It eclipsed the game in Portland from 2 weeks ago tonight. They lost by 20 in Portland that night, 139-119. They give up tonight. The Warriors do 129-104, so they lose by 25. Nuggets have won 6 straight games in Denver against the Warriors. The Warriors have not won in Denver since the championship season. In the regular season, they also won there in the playoffs. In Game 3 of the playoffs to take a 3-0 lead. But the last time the Warriors won in the regular season in Denver was March 10th of 2022. So that is 6 consecutive games in the regular season for Denver over the Warriors inside Ball Arena in Denver. The season series is split as these two teams will play 2 more times at Chase Center in February 22nd. At Chase Center, and then they play at the end of March again in Denver. Final couple of weeks of the season. Warriors in the group of death in the Emirates Cup with San Antonio and Houston and Portland and Denver. The Warriors are 0-1, and remember point differential factors. So the Warriors are 0-1 with a minus 25 in point differential, but they will take on the Pacers at Chase Center on Sunday before heading out on the road for that 6-game road trip, which is among the longest road trips of the season. Draymond got his 5,000th career assist after missing the game in Sacramento. Jimmy Butler back in the lineup as well after the back injury, 16 points for him. Will Richard had 12 off the bench in this one. Kuminga did have a team-high tying 7 boards, and he, in 10 games to start the season, has had 5 or more rebounds in every game, as Steph Curry missed his 2nd straight game. Warriors 0-2 without Curry. They are 74-113 without Steph Curry since the 2014-15 season. So the Steve Kerr championship era, the Warriors 74-113. That's a 396 winning percentage. You're winning 39.6% of the time without Curry in the lineup. Since 2014-15, it's even worse than that in road games. You're only winning 28% of your road games without Steph over that time as well. All right, that's going to do it. Big thanks to everybody in the chat. Also, Robert, I'll give you my Cup winner prediction on Just Dubs tomorrow. So pop in tomorrow from 11 to 11:45. Truncated edition right after Kruger's 49er forecast. We'll get some more thoughts on just where things stand here to begin the year. But yeah, we'll go about 45, really working that show into the fold here on Saturday mornings, kind of filling the slot tomorrow. But we got some big things planned for Just Dubs as we have it evolve here with Kyle Haar. Not going to be part of it tomorrow, but going to be a big part of it here moving forward. So for Kyle and for Anthony Garcia, and anybody I'm forgetting tonight? Friday night?
Yep, just us
Anthony
two.
Garcia.
Yeah, just us two.
Just Anthony. All right, just Anthony Garcia. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 11 to 11:45. And then on Sunday, again, no harmonic. It pains me to say no harmonic, but there are a couple of days because of the 49ers where there are some conflicts, and I'm going to be out at Levi's. But we will have a Dubs OT immediately following the game. So everybody stay tuned for that. We'll be on right about 8 o'clock when that game goes final, Warriors and the Indiana Pacers. So looking forward to that as well. We'll just be doing it from a little bit of a different location than normal. So for Kyle and Anthony, I'm JD. We'll talk to you tomorrow and Sunday right here on the Sports Leader. John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no, no!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.
No class, no balls.
Everything's gonna be all right.